Hi, everyone, and welcome to the channel. My name is Nick Cosgrove, and I am back with my new coaching reality series from a coach's perspective. Today, I want to talk about what I do as a coach when things stop working. What do I do when my clients are not losing fat, when they're not building muscle, when they've stopped training consistently, eating intelligently? What do I do when they quit and give up altogether? So, as an online coach, it can be tricky at times because, as I talked about last week, it can be challenging to hold people accountable when you're not with them in person. All right. Yeah, I can send them emails, I can send them text messages, and I can blow up their phone. But at the end of the day, I'm not with that person to see physical changes from a day-to-day basis, like I do with a lot of my clients here in Vancouver, British Columbia. So, I have to actually go by our weekly check-ins and how we communicate online. And there are times when I have clients who are working with me who either if they're trying to lose weight, the scale has stopped going down. If they're trying to build muscle, the scale has stopped going up. Their strength has stopped going up in the gym. Okay. Or they've become frustrated and they've stopped going to the gym or they're cheating on their diet more often. And then sometimes people just quit altogether. Okay. So I want to go by point here, what I do with certain individuals. And hopefully, that will help other people, especially if there are other coaches watching this. Maybe they can actually give some feedback as well to me, what they do with their clients when their clients are having difficulty either gaining muscle, losing fat, or getting discouraged and unmotivated and want to quit altogether. So again, I'm hoping to utilize these episodes to help educate other coaches, explain to personal training clients, including my own, what we as coaches do behind the scenes that go beyond just giving you a training program and a diet plan to follow, and what we have to deal with working with different personalities and how good coaches troubleshoot when things are in disarray. All right. So the first thing I want to talk about is what I do with a client when they are not losing weight anymore. All right. So working with a client on a week to week basis, they're losing consistently anywhere from 1.5 to maybe 3 pounds per week. Everything's going well. The scale's going down. They're getting leaner. Jeans are fitting better. They're looking better. They're feeling better. They have more energy. And all of a sudden, plateau. Weight loss stalls. We're 2 weeks in. The weight has not changed on the scale. We're 3 weeks in. Pant size is still the same. We're 4 weeks in. Nothing has changed. So, what do I do? Well, usually I don't let it go 4 weeks. If I don't see any progress within 1 to 2 weeks, and the person I'm working with is doing everything right. So we're keeping this in mind. The person I'm working with is not cheating on their diet. They are training consistently. They're doing their cardio. So they're focusing on all three components. They're sleeping, getting enough sleep, they're recovering, they're hydrating. So they're doing everything right on their end. So it's now my job as a coach to troubleshoot and go, okay, why is this person no longer losing weight? So when I'm working with someone who's not losing weight, I have a few options here. I can either increase their cardio, I can decrease their calories, I could do both, or I could do nothing and tell them take 2 or 3 days off from the gym, eat whatever you want. Don't do any cardio. Okay. So I have a few options here. Which option I choose really depends on the person I'm working with. How hard am I pushing this person? How hard have I been pushing this person? How hard has this person been pushing themselves? If I'm working with someone who has not been as consistent in the gym, they go away for the long weekend, or they don't train as much, or they cheat on their diet more frequently, then I know I don't need to necessarily back off. I need to probably push them more and say, no, no, you got to dial things back in here. Okay. But if I am working with someone who is dialed in on their diet, they're training consistently, they're doing everything right, then there will come a time where I'll be like, you know what? Take the next 2 or 3 days off from the gym. And for those people, it's very difficult for them to do that because their mindset is, oh no, if I take more time off from the gym, I'm going to fall further behind. And I understand that mindset, but trust me when I say this. If your body is in a state of overtraining, okay, your cortisol levels are going to be elevated. If your cortisol levels are elevated, it becomes very difficult for you to lose fat or to build muscle. All right. You're not sleeping properly. You're not recovering properly. You're not training intensely. You're not going to lose that stubborn body fat. You're going to have a difficult time building that muscle. So the best thing you could do, take 2, maybe 3 days off from the gym completely. All right. That's like a reset. I will tell you that when I do that with clients who push themselves beyond my expectations, it always works. Always. Okay. So if you are someone who knows that you're doing everything right and you're giving it your all, doing more might not be the answer. Doing less is probably the key for you to surpass that plateau. All right. So again, if you are struggling to lose fat, okay, if this is your goal, okay, not just lose weight, but lose fat, you really have to take an honest look at what you've been doing in the gym, how often you've been training. Is your diet dialed in? Are you training consistently? Are you eating intelligently? All right. And if you answered yes to all those questions, then it's time to take a 2 to 3 day off break from the gym. I promise you, you're going to come back. You're going to feel refreshed. You're going to feel recovered, and you're going to be able to hit the gym harder, and you're going to be able to dial in your diet more consistently. Okay. So that's what I do with people whose goal is to lose body fat. Now, what if I'm working with someone whose goal is to build muscle? All right. Now, for a lot of people, they just assume that to build muscle, they just have to eat a bunch of food. Well, the problem is when you just eat a bunch of food, you're going to get fat. Okay. If you're in a caloric surplus, even if you're training in the gym, you're going to get fat. All right. You're going to have a layer of fat covering those muscles. So I treat gaining weight the same way I treat losing weight, slow and steady. The slower it comes on, the more quality you are putting on. If we can put on muscle without putting on body fat or very little body fat, perfect. Same thing I tell people, if I can help you lose fat without losing muscle and water, perfect. All right. So I use that same strategy when I'm trying to help someone build more muscle. So I don't just give them more and more food. Okay, the scale, sorry, has stalled. The strength in the gym is not going up. They're not getting any bigger. So what do you do? Well, in this case, what I'll typically look at is if it's not the diet, because sometimes, yes, sometimes you have to increase calories slowly, but at the same time, you have to watch that because whenever I'm looking at weekly progress photos of clients, if I notice someone is on a, let's say, a mass gaining plan, and I start to notice that they're getting kind of fluffy, they're looking kind of fluffy. That's the term we use when they're looking kind of soft and they're getting a little soft in the midsection, man or female. I'm like, we got to scale back those calories or we got to give you a little bit more cardio. Okay. So again, what I typically do with clients whose goal is to build muscle and to increase their weight on the scale is I will slowly increase calories by at the same time keeping a watchful eye to make sure that they're not gaining any body fat. If they are gaining body fat, I'll usually just scale back the calories and maybe bump up the cardio. Okay. Training is a huge one too, because a lot of times when people are training in the gym and the goal is to build muscle, they're not pushing themselves as hard as they possibly can. So if I'm working with someone online and they tell me, hey, I'm in the gym 6 days a week and I'm not getting any bigger, I don't know what's going on, my strength's not going up. I'm like, send me what you're doing in the gym. If I'm not doing your program, send me your training program. I want to see what you're doing. 9 times out of 10, I can find a whole bunch of red flags. This person might not be doing drop sets, supersets, circuit training. This person might be taking too long a rest periods in between sets. They might not be utilizing high volume training. They might be overtraining certain muscle groups while undertraining other muscle groups. So we have to look at the training program as well. Okay. But I can tell you right now that from working with the general population, there's always some type of red flag I see, whether it's in the training program, whether it's in the nutritional plan, whether it's in their lifestyle. Something they're doing is what's stopping them from progressing from level one to level two. All right. So when someone's trying to gain muscle, I look at it from a perspective going, okay, do we need to increase calories and clean calories? And if we are increasing calories, should I be increasing carbs? Should I be increasing fat? Should I be increasing protein? That again comes with the more experience as a coach because you have to know what you need to increase to help this person surpass their goals. Okay. Because sometimes it's not always just more protein. Okay. Because again, if you start taking large amounts of protein, first of all, that can be detrimental on your kidneys. Okay. Say, well, the body doesn't need crazy amount of protein. If you're a guy who's 200 pounds and you're consuming 600 grams of protein, that to me is ridiculous. Okay. You're stressing your kidneys, you're putting a lot of stress on your organs, and your body can't utilize that much protein anyway. Okay. So it's ridiculous to do that. So you have to understand which macronutrient to increase, if you should even increase a macronutrient, okay? And if you should, maybe if you are increasing your calories, maybe start adding in or increasing the current cardiovascular activity you are doing so that you're minimizing any potential fat gain. Okay. So again, when I'm looking at someone who's trying to help someone gain muscle, I will look at their nutritional plan, but also look at their training program and make sure that the both two are in sync together so that we can continue to surpass plateaus and troubleshoot when we do hit a plateau. Okay. Another one I look for is when the client stops training consistently and eating intelligently. Okay. Now this happens more often than not. Okay. It's very difficult to stay, and I talked about this on a Q&A earlier this week. It's very difficult to stay laser focused and constantly motivated 24/7. Okay, we are not machines. I talked about this on the Q&A. We are human beings. Okay, even myself, someone who's in the gym every day. I'm not motivated 24 hours a day. There are plenty of times I do not want to go and train legs. There are plenty of times that I don't want to go do cardiovascular activity. Okay, there are plenty of times that I don't want to have a chicken breast and rice for the thousandth time in a week. Okay, but I do it because for me it's become a routine. Okay, but it's very difficult to just stay motivated 24/7. So yeah, I'm looking forward to training today. I'm looking forward to doing my cardio. I'm looking forward to eating my chicken breast and rice. Okay. So what I usually try to do with people who are, I'm sensing that they're on the verge of burnout, because what happens is their weekly check-ins start showing me that instead of doing 5 cardio sessions, they only did 1 cardio session. Instead of doing four resistance training workouts, they did 2 resistance training workouts. Instead of having 1 cheat meal, they had 10 cheat meals. So that's giving me signs that this person is on the verge of burnout and potentially could quit altogether. All right. So what I'll typically do with people like that, I'll say, okay, look, let's negotiate here. I want you to have 1 cheat meal. You're having 10. Let's bring you back down to 5. Let's meet halfway here. Okay. I want you to have 4 resistance training sessions. You're only getting 2. I want you to give me an extra one. Give me 3 for now. All right. I want you doing 5 cardiovascular sessions. You're only doing 1. Give me at least 1 to 2 more. Okay. So 3 would be perfect. So we negotiate here. You don't have to give me perfect. Okay. But as long as I know you're trying to give me at least 50, 60%, that to me will tell me that you are still taking this relatively seriously. Okay. Because there's going to come times where you're going to want to quit. There are going to come times where you're going to want to sleep in. There are going to come times where you're going to want to go out and have drinks with your friends. And I'm not saying don't do that, but if you do that consistently, as in 3, 4 times a week, you're never going to achieve your target health and fitness goals. It's not going to happen. Okay. So what I always try to do is I try to make sure that I don't lecture my clients, but at the same time, I'm a voice of reason and I'm real with my clients. I'm like, look, you told me you're 180 pounds and you want to get down to 150 pounds. I cannot help you get down to 150 pounds if you're constantly cheating on your diet, if you're constantly skipping your workouts, if you're constantly missing your cardiovascular sessions. Okay. It's very difficult for me as your coach to help you when you yourself are not willing to do the work yourself. Okay. So it's important to, again, know when to push the person, but at the same time, know when to back off, but not back off completely. So you just don't communicate with them, still communicate with them, but negotiate and say, okay, our goal this week is to get 3 weight training sessions in, 2 cardiovascular sessions in, and at the most 5 cheat meals. If that person does that, to me, that's a win. No, it's not perfect, but that's a win. And that's going to keep them hanging on. And what's going to happen is they're going to make little changes in their physique. Maybe they drop a pound in 2 weeks. Maybe they drop 2 pounds in a month, but they're still seeing some progress. So as long as they're still seeing even if it's a little bit of progress, they're going to stay somewhat motivated to continue to along with the plan. All right. So it's learning as a coach when to push someone versus when to back off, and also knowing the person's personality that you're working with. Okay. Because if you don't know that, and I think that's so valuable for coaches out there to understand and know how to read your client and listen to your client. So many times the answers that you're looking for are coming from your clients. Okay, and if you listen and you kind of check your ego and say, well, no, I can go do 45 minutes of cardio. Well, of course you can do 45 minutes of cardio if you're a coach. You're someone who loves working out. So it's a little bit easier for you. Okay. But even there are going to be times, like I said, I'm not perfect. There's times where I want to skip my workouts. There's times I don't want to push as heavy in the weights. There's times I want to cheat on my diet. But it's easier for someone who's involved and works in the fitness industry to stay committed to their workouts and stay committed to their diet. Because let's face it, if you're in this industry, I imagine that you're doing it because it's your passion. All right. You're passionate about helping people get fit and healthy. So you yourself should be fit and healthy. So it shouldn't be that much of a challenge for you to get to the gym. And it shouldn't be that much of a challenge for you to do your cardio and to keep your diet relatively clean. Okay, but don't expect your clients to have that same love for health and fitness and working out and eating clean as you do. Okay, because that's not going to happen. That's why they've hired you to help hold them accountable, to guide them and help them get from point A to point B in a safe and effective manner. All right. And the last point I want to talk about is, what do I do when a client just gives up altogether, goes radio silent, and I don't hear from them for months on end? Okay. Now, this has happened before. Okay. So again, this is understanding when to back off and when to push. So if I have a client like that who's quit, whether it's in-house or whether it's online, okay, and it's like, yeah, I can't do this. I'm like, okay, no problem. I always make sure that client knows that I'm always here for them. So there's no like love lost. There's no like, oh, this person fired me or doesn't want to work with me. I have no ego. Okay. When it comes to my business, I have zero ego. I don't take, if someone doesn't want to work with me anymore, I don't take it personal. Okay. I don't take it as a personal attack because I know I'm doing everything I possibly can to help that person. If that person doesn't want my help, well, then that's on that person. But I'm not offended by that. And for all you know, the person you're working with, they might like you. It might have nothing to do with your coaching. You might be a great coach, but they might have other things going on in their life. Maybe something's going on, some stress is going on in their relationship, or they're having trouble at work, but family problems, whatever it may be. And right now is just not the time for them to be working with a trainer. So I always let people know the door is always open. Okay. And I'm pretty sure I can tell you right now with every single client, past and present, would tell you that I've never said I'll never work with someone again. All right. I haven't. I've even had people leave me and go work with other coaches and then to come back to work with me. And it's not awkward. I'm like, how did you learn anything? What did you learn? And to tell me, maybe I'll learn something too, because I always find I can learn something from my own clients. I really can. So if someone's worked with another coach, I'm like, well, what did your coach do from this angle when this happened? And I learn off that. So I never tell someone like, no, don't go work with that person, or if you work with that person, you can't work with me again. That to me is not being a professional. A professional wants to constantly learn from both your clients and also your competition. Okay. So for me, I've never had that ego. And so when someone decides that they're going to quit, they want to stop, I'm like, listen, I understand that. I'm not going to try to convince you otherwise. You're a grown adult. You can make your decisions, but the door is always open. And I'm always here. You want to email me, you want to text me. I work 7 days a week. I'll respond. Okay. So yeah, letting that person know that you're still there for them, okay, is huge because if and when that person is ready to resume their training, ready to get back on track with their diet, they know that you, as their coach or their ex-coach, is still in their corner. And it's so important. And I can't tell you as a coach not to take things personal, but I can tell you for me, not taking things personal has been a huge asset for my business because there are so many clients that over the years that I've built good relationships with. Some who don't work with me anymore, maybe because they moved away. Okay. But I still work with them online. Or, a lot of people, maybe they don't work with me anymore, but they've referred people to me. So for me, I'm always like, yeah, no, I'm going to do the best job I possibly can. So no one can ever say that Nick got lazy or Nick got repetitive or Nick wasn't doing my check-ins properly because I'll never do that. I don't offer a diluted service. Okay. So as a coach, if someone does quit, there's only so much that you can do. But the main thing is to make sure that they understand that you are still in their corner and that they can always come back and bounce ideas off you. They have a question. That's what you're here for. Okay. So if you're a true professional, in my opinion, you check the ego at the door and you're going to help that person. Even if they no longer work with you, you're still going to let them know, hey, the door is always open. If you want to come back and work with me again, I'm here. So that's what I do when it comes to troubleshooting problems with clients, I should say, when things stop working, okay, or when the person wants to quit altogether. All right. And again, if you're a coach and you're watching this and you've got some feedback from me and so this is what I do, Nick. I'd love to hear it. So, drop something in the comments below, DM me. If you want to come on and talk, I'm always happy to talk to people and learn from them as well. I think, especially in this industry, there's so much that we can learn from each other as coaches. And again, from your clients. Listen to your clients, okay? Because they will give you the answers you need to know which revisions, which changes you need to make in order to help them surpass their plateaus and in order for them to get from point A to point B. Anyway, that's it for this week's Coaching Reality Series, episode number 4. As a reminder, if you have any questions related to your nutritional plan, workout program, supplements you are currently taking, not taking, or considering taking, please feel free to email me those questions at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can DM me your questions on my Instagram at fitcosgrove_. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for supporting my YouTube channel, my online coaching business, as well as my in-house personal training business here in Vancouver, British Columbia. I truly do appreciate all the support and all the feedback that I received from each and every single one of you. Thank you all again, and I will see you all next week. Bye for now.